Hello learners, welcome to today's online session. Today I am going to talk about note taking, and this is another step towards understanding note taking. This is from FEG 2 Foundation Course in English 2. So let me begin with the very objective of this class. Before that, let me tell you that we are going to today, deal with the taking notes. I'm going to teach you how to understand various steps which have to be taken into consideration for taking notes. Okay, taking notes from a reading text particularly, and that we have to understand from the point of view of the organization of notes. Okay, that we have to understand. Okay, so if you look at the objective, okay, so my objective in today's class is to help you understand how to take notes for the purpose of not only study but for the purpose of also doing various activities, okay, and maybe in the office, maybe taking notes for the lectures, for various other activities as well. And when you talk about taking notes, it involves various skills which you have to learn in preparing notes. So today I will be teaching you what are those skills which you need to understand for making notes. And when I'm talking about various skills, let me talk about briefly. There are three skills which you need to understand for preparing notes. First is the ability to read with a purpose. So you must develop the ability. So whoever is interested in understanding about taking notes or making notes must have the ability to read with a purpose. So you should have a purpose in your mind, and with that purpose you should develop this ability of reading the book, reading the text, and also understanding the lectures for your purpose of making notes. That is the first skill which you need to understand, the ability. Now the second skill which you require for preparing notes is that shortening devices are used, which you need to understand. Today I'll be teaching you the shortening devices. What are those shortening devices which will help you to make notes? And those shortening devices will help you to save time and condensate your material. Okay, and there are even a lot of, you can say, people who do make use of shortening devices. Okay, I'll be telling you about the shortening devices in very detail very shortly. So that's the second skill which you need to understand. The third skill which you need to understand for preparing your notes is that a proper organization of the ideas are to be understood, you can say, which are very much present in the text, okay, which you are intended to write a notes for. So you have to understand the proper organization of the idea, which is very much entailed in the text which we are writing the notes for. So these are the basically three I would say skills which are required for preparing notes. Okay, now as I told you, in today's class I'll be focusing on preparing notes from a reading test from the point of view of the organization of notes. Okay, so how to organize notes, how to also organize the ideas in a particular textbook or in a lecture or in other office works will be taught today. Okay, I'll be teaching you that as well. Now when you talk about this taking notes, there are various questions which do arise in your mind as to why do we need to take notes, and what are the advantages, what are the various objectives of taking notes. So as you know that almost anyone who maybe studies in a college or a university, or anyone who works in the office has to take notes someday or the other, or sometimes. So writing notes, preparing notes is not confined to only students, but also those people also who are working in the offices. So when I talk about teaching you, when I talk about teaching you several devices or several skills of taking notes, so they are going to help not only students but workers as well, those who are employees. So they also would be very much helped by these skills which I'm going to teach you today. Okay, and also you may have realized that as a student when you attend lectures or maybe in a college or in university, you generally take notes while listening to maybe a lecturer or professor, okay, in the classroom, or even listening to a speaker at a seminar, or even when reading your course books, So what I mean to say is that, see, taking notes is something which everybody needs today, and particularly students. They do need to understand the short, you can say, devices or skills which are used to taking notes, because a student, he or she may not be able to take down everything what a speaker says or everything what the professor teaches in the classroom. So therefore the short skills are required for taking notes. So today I'll teach you about that. And also you may realize that in an office, maybe you may need, if you're working in the office, then you may need to take notes, okay, when your boss gives you instructions. If you're working as a secretary, then you'll be asked to write something, so your boss will be dictating certain things to you, when you attend a meeting or even a conference, and sometimes you may also have to take, an examination being a student to, improve your qualifications or to compete for a better job. So in that situation, of course, you have to take notes from the books you have read, So what I mean to say is that, taking notes is not helpful for the students, but for the working people as well, okay? So this will be very, very helpful for all of you. Now the question is, why do we take notes? What are the reasons for taking notes? So I would say that, there are mainly two reasons for taking notes. Number one, to keep a record of the speakers or even the writer's main ideas, okay, not to take down or copy every word. It's very difficult to, note down or take down, or copy every word the speaker is speaking or the writer is speaking. Okay, the writer is suppose speaking in the classroom, or even a professor is speaking in the classroom, So it's very difficult. So that's the first reason why we need to take notes, because you would like to keep a record of what has been delivered, okay, in the form of a lecture in the classroom, or what has been spoken, okay, as a speaker in a seminar or in a conference, or even in the office by the boss, okay. So that's number one. The number two reason is that, you need to this taking notes, okay, which will help you, it will help your memory, okay. When, for example, if you are revising for an examination or even preparing a report, then you may not remember everything what you have read. You may not remember everything what you have listened to, okay, in the classroom or in the conference, in the seminar, okay. So in that situation, taking notes will help you to, revive your memory, okay. So therefore, these are the two reasons which are, really helpful for taking notes, you can say. And those are the reasons why we should take help of taking notes as well, Now the question is, how do we read? If you want to prepare notes, we need to go through textbooks, okay. So how do you read? Okay, suppose you are reading a passage, okay, of which you want to prepare notes, So when you read a passage, in order to obtain specific information, okay, it is always good idea, to acquaint yourself with the text by quickly going through it, okay. And that is what we generally do also, even being student or being a professor also, we generally, simply go through first, go through, the textbook once quickly, without understanding what is there, So that is the first idea, okay. So that would be a really good idea to acquaint yourself with the text by quickly going through it. That should be the first step. Now, you will also find, while going through this process, that some paragraphs, and that you have to do, that some paragraphs, particularly containing the information you want, must be read very carefully, okay. So you can underline them, and then you can look for some of the important words which have been used, so you can take down, or you can say the important words which have been used there. And so paragraphs have to be underlined, particularly those paragraphs which are containing the information that you want, So remember that those paragraphs containing the information must be read very carefully. Okay, that is the next step. Now you will also find that there are other paragraphs containing a lot of repetition. So what are you supposed to do, I mean, in that situation? In that situation, if you find that there are a lot of paragraphs which are containing a lot of repetitions, then you may, I mean, skim through all those passages. You may skip those passages, okay? Or you may simply read faster and more, superficially. So you may not need to devote much more time reading those paragraphs which are not of useful to you. If those paragraphs are containing a lot of repetitions, so you can skim through those paragraphs. That is the next step. And the next step is that you will also find while going through the passage, going through the text, that some passages that are of no interest to you, okay, or which are completely irrelevant for your purpose, then you can skip those passages. If you find those passages are irrelevant to you, if you don't find that those passages are containing information that you need, then you may skip those passages. Okay, so that is the next step, you can say. So these are the steps, you can say, which really will help you, how to read the passage, how to read the text. So I mean, at least you get a basic idea that you have to focus on particularly only those paragraphs which are containing informations that you want, and you may skim through the passages, you can say, which are containing repetitive words. You can also simply avoid those passages which are of no relevance to you at all. So these are the things which you need to keep in mind while going through the passage. Okay, so which will help you to understand how to read the text. Now, as I told you, there are a lot of reduction devices. Reduction means through which you can reduce the length of the words, length of the sentences, okay, which are used for taking notes or note taking. Okay, so reduction devices are very important. Okay, and reduction devices are considered to be a very important technique in note taking. Okay, that you have to understand. So these reduction devices, they help you, save time when you are noting down something from a book. Okay, so therefore you need to understand what those reduction devices are. And reduction devices are also particularly useful when you are taking down notes, okay, from a particular lecture, or while attending a seminar, while attending a conference, or even the office while listening to the boss's instructions. Okay, so these are the reduction devices which are used for taking notes. Okay, they will be very helpful. So anyone interested in taking notes must, acquaint himself or herself with these reduction devices. Since notes do not contain repetitive and unnecessary information, then you must remember that it is the time when reduction devices help to give you a more organized picture of what the writer or what the speaker is saying. So therefore, at that time also reduction devices are very helpful for you. Now let me talk about the reduction devices one by one. And the first reduction device which is used for taking notes is obviously symbols. Okay, so symbols could be in the form of maybe lines. You may make use of lines also while taking notes. You may make use of arrows. Okay, and so these symbols are used in place of words. So instead of words, you use these symbols. Now what are those symbols? Let me explain to you one by one. For example, if you are making use of arrows, so now the thing is that what do you understand by the arrows, and why do people make use of arrows in taking notes? So in the notes, remember that we can write, suppose you're writing blockage of arteries, okay, then definition, then you are making use of the symbol right arrow, and then blood supply, and then again you are making use of right arrow, angina, Now, why do you use this arrow? The question is, what is the meaning of the arrow here? Okay, right arrow. So remember, an arrow can mean changes to, or it may also mean causes, or it may also mean contributes to. So when I'm saying blockage of arteries or deficiency causes blood supply, or maybe changes into blood supply, or contributes to blood supply, and then it causes angina. So this is the meaning of the arrow being used here. So that is the one symbol which is used in making a note. So you, instead of writing changes to, contributes to, or even causes, you can simply use arrow here. Okay, so that's what you can do. Okay, so I mean, that is the use of arrow. Okay, you can make use of arrow here. Okay, and then there are other symbols also. Apart from making use of arrow, you can also make use of an arrow in reverse direction. Okay, now reverse direction, what would it mean? The arrow in the reverse direction would mean is attributed to, or maybe is caused by, or as in the following example, like rheumatic heart disease is caused by an infection of the throat which is not treated. Suppose this is the sentence, then how do you make note of this? So rheumatic heart disease, in place of writing heart disease, you use the initial letter H and D. So H and D is heart disease, and is caused by. So instead of making use of is caused by or writing is caused by, you simply make use of an arrow, reverse arrow, which means caused by. So rheumatic, then HD, and then put reverse direction. Okay, arrow in reverse direction. Okay, then untreated throat infection. So what does it mean? It means that rheumatic heart disease is caused by untreated throat infection, or untreated throat infection is caused by rheumatic, we can say, heart disease. Okay, so an arrow is also used, in two heads also. Okay, with two heads. Okay, maybe left hand side and right hand both. Okay, in both manners. Okay, and which has different meaning. When you're using arrow in two heads, it can mean related to. That means both are related to, okay, each other. So that's how you make use of arrow. That's the symbol, so which is known as reduction device. Okay, so there is another pointer which is like underlining is used to show what is important. Okay, so you can underline the most important element of the passage. Okay, and then there are mathematical symbols also which are used. So then let me acquaint you with mathematical symbols, because these are the symbols which are frequently used by those who make use of notes. In talking about mathematical symbols, first figure which is used is like figures instead of words. For numbers like 26, instead of writing 26 in words, you simply make use of mathematical letters like 26, 2 and 6. Okay, for example. Then similarly you can use the same as. So instead of writing into words the same as, you simply make use of is equal to symbol, is equal to, and not the same as becomes is equal to, then cross it. Okay, you can cut it. Okay, and is less than, there is a symbol for this less than, and is more than, then there is again a symbol for more than. Therefore, for therefore also there is symbol, and because also, for because also there is symbol. So these are the mathematical symbols which can be used as shortening devices. Okay, shortening devices or reduction devices which will help you to be used instead of writing lengthy words. Okay, while making notes. So these are mathematical things. Apart from symbols, you can also make use of abbreviations, and using abbreviations okay, in taking notes is becoming very common element nowadays. You can use abbreviations like a few letters instead of the whole word. So you may, okay, like use of measurement. Okay, so you can make use of units of measurement. You can make use of second. For second, you can make use of SEC, second. Minute, MIN, you can make use of hour. Instead of writing hour, you can write HR. Instead of writing year, YER, you can simply write YR. Instead of writing month, MONTH, you can simply use MTH. Meter, M, kilogram, kg. So these are the shortened versions, okay, abbreviations which are used, okay, for making notes. So instead of writing the whole words, you can use these abbreviations. Okay, and also remember that useful abbreviations for words and phrases, there are other useful abbreviations also apart from what we have seen. Okay, for example, and so on. Okay, etc. Compare, CF, that is, so IE, for example, EG, about approximately you see a 20th century, suppose, so you write C20. So these are other, you can say, abbreviations for words and phrases which are used for taking notes. So we have seen how symbols are used, mathematical symbols, then abbreviations, okay. So there are short forms also which are used, like for example, the words ending with TION or words ending with SION, okay, at the end of the word. So instead of writing the full, you can say, word, you can simply use the last letter, suppose reaction. So you have to react, and instead of writing ION, simply write N, reaction. So conclusion, write CONLU, conclusion, okay, S, and then simply write N. So instead of writing TION, write N. Instead of writing SION, you can write N. Okay. So these are the short forms, you can, the shortening forms also, you can say, which are used for making notes. Now, shortening long words or even phrases for which there is no symbol, or you can say abbreviations, or even a pattern that can be followed. So there are, and shortening, you can say long words, okay. So if there are long words, then you can shorten them. You may, if there are no abbreviations for those words, then you can use the short version of those words. For example, just now I gave you example heart disease. So instead of writing the heart disease, you simply write the first initial letters of those two words, H and D, okay, H dot D dot, heart disease. So disease is also in shortened form written as DIS, and then put dot. Is blood pressure, everybody knows how blood pressure is known. It is known as BP. So you simply, instead of writing blood pressure, you write BP in shortened version, okay. Simply cholesterol, instead of writing cholesterol, you write cholesterol, okay, T, and you can make use of that. So the point is that you try to look for the shortened version of long words, okay. If abbreviations are not used, then you always look for shortening of those words, okay. Shortening, how you can shorten them, and you always try to make use of shortened version of long words, okay. So those will be very, very helpful, okay. Now, apart from the symbols, I just now talked to you about, making, while making notes, there are headings and subheading points also, okay. Headings and subordinate points which are used, when particularly the information content is very small and not particularly, you can say, well organized, then our notes may contain just a few phrases, and however, when we study, like, our information, you can, content is very often large and organized around a topic. In what happens in such a situation? In such a situation, it makes our notes very clearer if we have headings and subordinate points. So instead of writing the whole paragraph, you can select the headings, you can say. You can also write, subordinate points, and that is how you can categorize. If suppose paragraph is too lengthy, then you can select the heading, and then you can give other points and keep them under the category of subordinate, So heading and subordinate points, you can categorize them. Now heading you can underline. So heading can always be underlined, okay. But it is not necessary, it's not, I mean, essential that you underline the subordinate points also. No, I mean, see, the subordinate points are placed, you can say, under the heading, and also they are at times indented, and that is, the lines are started, further into the page than the lines for the heading, and this really shows that they are dependent on the main topic. So when we are writing subordinate points, they have to be below the heading. They could be indented also. So that means that they are, I mean, dependent on the main topic. And the subordinate points, also remember, are directly under each other. Okay, they are directly under each other. And this shows that they are of approximately the same importance, So I think these are the things which you need to understand, you can say. So in the passage, if it's a long passage, okay, then select for a heading. And if there are many points, then you can put a subheading. Then below subheading also you can put another heading, you can subheading, okay, 1, 2, 3. You can put 1, 2, 3 in subheading also. So this is how you can, I mean, select headings and subordinate points as well, and then you can write those things, okay. So which will be really helpful for, making notes, okay, making notes, okay. So yeah, so now let me conclude whatever I have discussed today. Okay, so in today's lecture, I have talked about the fact that it's very necessary to read with a very clear purpose in the mind. So if you are wanting to prepare notes, then the first thing or first skill in fact which is required is that you should have a very clear idea regarding what you are going to write about. So there should be clear purpose in your mind. That's the first thing. The second thing which I have discussed today is that you can separate the essential information in a text from what is repetitive or irrelevant. How can you do that? You can underline, or you can put a lot of emphasis or stress those paragraphs which are containing the information which you want, and you may skim through, or even you may even avoid those paragraphs which are irrelevant to you. Okay, you may not necessarily go through those paragraphs which are containing repetitive words, or the paragraphs which are irrelevant to you. So you can separate. So that's the second thing which you learn. You need to separate the essential information in a text from what is repetitive and also what is irrelevant. You have also learned today about the techniques of taking notes in terms of like shortening devices. I talked about you can shortening device such as making use of abbreviations on symbols, and also you have learned about the organization of notes, okay, in terms of headings and subordinate points. Okay, so those shortening devices, I think, are the crucial elements of today's discussion, which you need to understand. And when I'm talking about shortening devices, they are used in the form of symbols. Okay, I told you how arrow is used, reverse arrow is used. You can also make use of abbreviations. You can make use of mathematical symbols also. So these are the shortening devices which can be understood as techniques, okay, of taking notes. Okay. So I hope that you today learned the techniques which are used for note taking. Okay, being a student or being an office goer person also. So today's lecture is definitely going to help you about understanding how to take notes and how to prepare notes. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much.